In the vast expanse of space, where stars glittered like scattered diamonds, humanity had reached a milestone no one thought possible. First contact with an alien race called the Valari. These beings were unlike anything humans had ever encountered, tall and graceful, with shimmering skin that changed colors based on their emotions. Among them was Lyra, a young Valari scientist, whose curiosity about humans was unlike that of her peers. While others marveled at Earth's technology or culture from afar, Lyra was fascinated by something much deeper: human biology, especially the way humans reproduced. To the Valari, reproduction was a cold, mechanical process controlled by science and devoid of the complex feelings humans seemed to attach to it. Lyra's interest began as pure scientific inquiry, but as she spent more time learning, it grew into something more personal. She reached out to Dr. Ethan Morris, a respected human biologist, who was part of the diplomatic team assigned to assist the Valari with understanding human life. At first, Ethan was cautious after all, sharing intimate details of human reproduction. With an alien was uncharted territory. But Lyra's genuine eagerness to learn and her respectful questions soon built a fragile bridge of trust between them. Every day, Ethan showed her how humans formed bonds, how love and trust were woven into the very act of creating life, unlike the Valari's sterile procedures. Lyra listened intently, her eyes shining with wonder and sometimes confusion. Asked questions that made Ethan rethink his own understanding of humanity, questions about emotions, connection, and why humans placed so much importance on such things. The more she learned, the more Lyra felt a strange pull, not just intellectual curiosity, but a longing to experience these human ways firsthand. Ethan noticed the change too, sensing a bond growing between them beyond their roles as teacher and student. At times, their conversations drifted into moments of silence, filled only by the distant hum of the research station's machines. Both wondered silently if this connection was the start of something new, something that could change the way two very different species saw each other. Meanwhile, other members of the Valari watched with suspicion. Some feared Lyra's obsession with human reproduction could lead to dangerous misunderstandings, or worse, emotional entanglements that might threaten the delicate peace between their races. But Lyra was determined. She wanted to know everything, even if it meant stepping into unknown territory. As days passed, the suspense built quietly. What did it truly mean for a Valari to understand the human heart? Could she cross the invisible line between observer and participant? And what would Ethan do if she asked to take the next step? The universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would come of this unusual friendship that might rewrite the rules of contact, biology, and maybe even love itself. As the days turned into weeks, Lyra and Ethan's conversations grew deeper and more personal, moving beyond simple biology to explore the very core of what it meant to live and feel as a human. Lyra, who came from a species where reproduction was a precise, emotionless process carried out through machines and genetic programming, found herself struggling to grasp how humans wove so many complex emotions into the act of creating life. To her, the human way seemed chaotic, unpredictable, and almost magical in its unpredictability. She asked Ethan questions that showed her genuine desire to understand not just the physical mechanics, but the feelings behind them. Ethan, patient and thoughtful, explained how human courtship was about more than just biology. It was about trust, respect, and deep emotional bonds that grew over time. He described how humans formed families, not just through reproduction, but through shared experiences, sacrifices, and love. Lyra listened carefully, sometimes nodding, sometimes silent, as she tried to absorb concepts foreign to her experience. She found the idea of emotional intimacy both fascinating and puzzling. In Valari culture, relationships were functional and straightforward, based on necessity rather than feelings. Here was a species where connection mattered more than survival alone. Ethan told her stories about the rituals humans had developed in hers, shared walks taken together, songs that helped build trust and closeness between partners. He spoke of moments when humans would look into each other's eyes, searching for honesty and commitment, a silent promise that whatever challenges came, they would face them together. Lyra was amazed at how these simple acts, often overlooked by her species, carried such power and meaning for humans. She began to see the fragile beauty in human vulnerability, where openness and emotion became the foundation for something stronger than biology alone. Yet with every new insight, Lyra also felt the weight of uncertainty. How could she ever truly experience what humans felt? Would it be possible for her to cross the divide between her logical, programmed instincts and the messy, beautiful chaos of human emotion? Ethan noticed the flickers of doubt in her eyes and gently reassured her that understanding was the first step, and feeling would come with time. Their growing bond was tested in subtle ways, too, sometimes through quiet moments of shared silence, other times through laughter sparked by simple human quirks Lyra found amusing. Yet, beneath their warm exchanges, an unspoken tension lingered. A question neither dared to voice. How far could this understanding go? Was Lyra's fascination purely scientific, or did it hint at something more profound? Meanwhile, whispers among the Valari community grew. Some leaders worried that Lyra's fascination might disrupt their carefully maintained order. To them, human emotions were unpredictable and dangerous. What if this curiosity led to actions that endangered the fragile alliance? But Lyra remained undeterred. For the first time, she felt a hunger not just for knowledge, but for experience, for connection. Ethan, too, found himself drawn into this delicate dance of trust and discovery. He began to see in Lyra not just a student, but a kindred spirit reaching across the void between worlds. Together, they stood on the edge of a new frontier, where science met emotion, and where the future of both their species could change forever. Suspense built quietly in the background, the question hanging in the air. Would this connection lead to a deeper union or an impossible divide? As Lyra and Ethan continued their journey of discovery, the universe seemed to hold its breath, watching closely as two very different beings tried to bridge the greatest gap of all, the gap between hearts. One evening, as the research station hummed softly with the quiet sounds of machinery and distant voices, Lyra invited Ethan to join her in a private room filled with holographic displays and soft light. They had spent many hours together, learning and sharing. But tonight the atmosphere felt different, charged with an unspoken tension. Lyra, usually composed and thoughtful, seemed restless, her shifting skin colors flickering with a strange mixture of emotions Ethan could only guess at. Then, in a voice soft yet firm, she asked something that took Ethan by surprise. Could they try it together? First, Ethan thought he had misunderstood, and his mind raced through possibilities. Did she mean reproduction, in the literal sense? But Lyra quickly clarified, this was not a request born from biology alone, but a cultural experiment, a daring attempt to see if two completely different beings could unite their strengths to create new life. It was a proposal unlike anything Ethan had ever encountered, bold, risky, and full of profound meaning. The idea of blending Valari and human elements to forge something new went beyond science. It was a symbol of trust, respect, and unity between their worlds. Ethan's heart pounded with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. This could be the breakthrough that humanity and the Valari needed to deepen their alliance. Or it could open doors to challenges no one had prepared for. Yet beneath the weight of responsibility, Ethan felt a spark of hope. If they succeeded, they could prove that life and cooperation transcended species, culture, and the limits of what either race had ever imagined. Lyra, sensing Ethan's hesitation, explained her vision with clarity and passion. She believed that by combining the emotional depth of humans with the precision of Valari science, they could create a new form of life, one that would carry the legacy of both species. To her, this was not just an experiment, but a step toward understanding each other's worlds at their most intimate levels. Ethan looked into Lyra's eyes and saw not only determination, but a vulnerability that echoed his own hopes and fears. He knew the risks, biological unknowns, ethical dilemmas, and the scrutiny of both their peoples. But the potential reward, a future where humans and Valari could truly stand as equals, bound by shared creation, was worth exploring. As they discussed the details, a plan began to take shape, blending advanced genetic technology with careful, emotional bonding exercises. Experiment would require patience, respect, and absolute trust. Qualities both knew would be tested to their limits. Outside the room, the universe seemed to pause, as if awaiting their decision. Would they step into this uncharted territory together, or retreat to the safety of old boundaries? In that moment, Ethan and Lyra faced a choice that would define not only their lives, but the future of two civilizations. The suspense hung thick in the air, a silent question challenging everything they believed about life, love, and what it meant to be truly connected. The moment they agreed to move forward, Ethan and Lyra found themselves stepping into a journey that tested not only their scientific skills, but the strength of their fragile bond. The lab became their shared world, filled with glowing screens and complex machines that hummed with energy as they began blending Valari and human genetics. Technology was far beyond anything either species had tried before, a delicate balance between human intuition and Valari precision. Each step of the process demanded absolute trust, because any mistake could mean failure or worse, danger to both of them and their people. Despite the sterile surroundings, the work was deeply personal. Ethan explained to Lyra how the human body adapted and changed, while she showed him how Valari cells could be programmed with incredible accuracy. Their collaboration became a dance, a careful give and take as they negotiated their differences and learned to speak a language beyond words, one of patience, respect, and shared hope. But the experiment was not without its challenges. At times, cultural misunderstandings crept in. Lyra's methodical approach clashed with Ethan's more intuitive style, leading to moments of frustration and doubt. There were days when the data refused to cooperate, and the lab was filled with silence, heavy with unspoken fears. Could they really create something that combined the best of both worlds? Or were they reaching for something that should remain apart? Yet each obstacle pushed them to communicate more deeply, to find new ways to bridge the gap between species. Slowly, they began to understand that the key to success lay not just in the science, but in their willingness to embrace each other's differences and learn from them. Outside the lab, rumors spread among both humans and Valari. Some praised their efforts as the dawn of a new era, while others whispered warnings of playing God with life itself. The pressure mounted, but Ethan and Lyra stayed focused, driven by a shared vision of peace and unity. They often stayed late into the night discussing what it meant to create life, not just as a biological event, but as an act of hope, proof that two very different beings could come together to build something greater. As the final stages of the experiment approached, tension grew. Would their combined efforts succeed, or would the unpredictable nature of life pull them apart? When the moment of truth came, the lab held its breath, and Ethan and Lyra stood, side by side, hearts pounding with anticipation. In that moment, the child they hoped to create was more than just science. It was a symbol of trust, courage, and the unbreakable link between two species daring to dream of a peaceful future. The universe watched, waiting to see if their leap of faith would light the way forward or fade into the darkness of what might have been. After months of painstaking work, endless nights filled with cautious hope and careful planning, the moment finally arrived when the impossible became real. Against all odds, the experiment that Ethan and Lyra had dared to dream of succeeded. The lab was silent, except for the soft beeping of the monitors. Watching over the tiny life that had begun to grow, a life born from the blending of two very different species, a child who carried within them the hopes and dreams of humans and Valari alike. This child, neither fully human nor fully Valari, represented something much greater than biology. The news of the hybrid's birth spread like wildfire through both communities, stirring a mixture of awe, disbelief, and fear. Many had doubted the project's chances from the start. Skeptics argued it was unnatural, dangerous, or doomed to fail. Others feared what this new being might mean for their cultures, traditions, and sense of identity. But as the child grew, it became clear that this life was a bridge, not a threat. Ethan and Lyra, now deeply connected by the trials and triumphs they had shared, became more than just colleagues. They were partners in a journey that changed the course of history. Watching their child's first steps and hearing the first Sounds of their voice was like witnessing the dawn of a new era. The child's presence challenged long-held preconceptions. Some Valari, who had once viewed humans as chaotic and emotional, began to see the strength and resilience those qualities brought. Likewise, humans who had seen aliens as cold and distant discovered warmth, intelligence, and a desire for connection. In the Valari, the hybrid's existence sparked conversations across star systems. Diplomats, scientists, and leaders from many worlds began to consider new possibilities for cooperation. The child became a living symbol of what could be achieved when curiosity, empathy, and respect replaced fear and suspicion. But the road was not without its challenges. The hybrid faced struggles unique to their existence: acceptance and belonging. Both communities had to learn to embrace this new life fully, breaking down barriers that had stood for centuries. Ethan and Lyra stood by their child, teaching them to understand and honor both heritages and to become a beacon of unity. Their family's story inspired others to reach out across divides and to imagine futures built on collaboration rather than conflict. Through this child, the boundaries between species blurred, and a new chapter in interstellar relations began, one where differences were celebrated as strengths and the unknown was met with open hearts. Ethan often reflected on how far they had come, from cautious lessons in biology to the creation of life itself. He knew the journey was only beginning. But as he looked at Lyra and their child, he felt certain that humanity's greatest power was not technology or weapons, but the ability to learn, to care, and to hope. In a universe full of endless stars, this new life shone brightest, a testament to the courage it takes to bridge divides and create something truly extraordinary. Together they faced the future with open eyes and open hearts, ready to build a world where all beings could thrive in peace.